Spaghetti Cedar. Emma's SVB WSJ tweet was featured in Vanity Fair. Was that the one where it's the bank was destroyed by wokeness?
Yeah, I mean, I was responding to Andy Kessler's op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, basically, where he said that, just asking questions about how SVB had a woman on their or women on their board and were required to have an LGBTQ person and a black person on their board. Were they too distracted by that, and that's why they ended up crashing? I mean, just completely childish, ridiculous stuff. And frankly, it's it's light white supremacy that is being featured in the pages of the Wall Street Journal, and that made me so angry that I couldn't even speak.
It's timeless. We talked about the 2008 stuff where the conservatives are like, we did too much to put black people into homes, but this is America. Like any sort of financial crisis, 1873. You have people saying, well, we're spending way too much time occupying the South still. We need to go conquer, like, say, the Black Hills so we can get some silver to get this economy going again. Mm-hmm. Like the sort of white supremacist sort of obfuscation of a financial crisis for further, just to unshackle them even more is timeless in this country.
It's not just the pages of the Wall Street Journal. Apparently, there was a memo sent out that there was a black person on the board of this bank, and that must be the problem with its insolvency. How many black folks are on the board of Credit Suisse? Do we know? Because, in fact, maybe we should be making this this information public. Because that way we can start to make investment decisions.
Yeah, I'm pulling all of my money out of any bank that said anything about diversity at any point.
Exactly. Right. But here is Larry Kudlow. He is with his sober analysis of what happened.
So it was reported that Silicon Valley Bank had to pay up over 5% to attract uninsured deposits. So that's a huge asset-liability mismatch, right? Treasury bonds yielding 3.5%, 4%. Well, where was Mary Daley and her team at the San Francisco Fed while all this incredibly inept management was butchering the bank? Then you read about a $5 billion one-chunk investment.
Oh, pause it. Now, hold on. I want to make it clear there in that first line. He's asking, where is the head of the San Francisco Fed in terms of regulation? This is a regulation. These are regulation decisions that Jerome Powell oversees. There's nobody going freelancing on imposing their own regulation. We had two things that happened. One thing that happened was there was a statutory rollback of a whole host of requirements, reporting requirements, scrutiny requirements, capital holding requirements, liquidity requirements that were imposed upon banks. They were rolled back. They used to be on any bank over $50 billion. Then they got rolled back to any bank over $250 billion. And SVB, we know, scrupulously tried to stay under that threshold. In some instances, is sort of off booking some of their assets for inexplicable reasons. But of course, if there's no regulators there scrutinizing the bank, then much easier to hide those assets or put them off book and justify it. So much so that Powell supposedly, I don't know if I believe this as much as it is just a way of soothing people a little bit. But right now, Wall Street Journal says that the Federal Reserve is rethinking a number of its own rules related to mid-sized banks following the collapse of those two lenders. The point being is that within that 2018 rollback, there was latitude for the Fed to impose what's best described as sub-regulations. They had the opportunity to, and in fact, now they're actually starting to think about it.
Right.
The Fed and other bank regulators imposed many new rules on banks in response to the last financial crisis. Lawmakers in 2018 rolled back some of those restrictions by raising the threshold so that the most onerous, just think about the adjectives here. Not, do you consider if you have, I put up 3 fire detectors, smoke detectors in my apartment. It's so onerous. the regulations on how many fire detectors I got to have in my apartment, onerous, as opposed to like stringent or safety oriented or securing. God, there's so much onerous protection of all my money in the bank account. It's onerous. They got to put on these onerous safes in front of it. And no, it's onerous standards applied to firms with more than $250 billion in assets. The changes under consideration, which are allowed under the 2018 law, could have the effect of reversing that shift by significantly lowering the threshold. In other words, there's a set of stuff that were basically like first alarm type of scrutiny, like where they would go over. It wouldn't be as onerous, but it would maybe give a heads up, like something's going on weird here. Like, why are they off booking some of these assets? And he's now blaming the San Francisco Fed for a decision that really was Jerome Powell's. And obviously pushed by the administration of which he was the chief economic advisor. These bank regulations would be exactly as they were and would have prevented all this had not his boss, Donald Trump, under undoubtedly some piece of this man's very advice.
Yeah, where was Kudlow? Bottom of the bottle.
Having lunch. What'd I miss?
All right, go back to the beginning.
It was reported that Silicon Valley Bank had to pay up over 5% to attract uninsured deposits. So that's a huge asset-liability mismatch, right? Treasury bonds yielding 3.5%, 4%. Well, where was Mary Daley and her team at the San Francisco Fed while all this incredibly inept management was butchering the bank? Then you read about a $5 billion...
And pause it one more time. I'm sorry. When he says inept management, it means they got caught.
Yeah.
It means they got caught. He would never, ever, ever discourage this kind of gambling and pushing the limits unless they get caught. It's only inept the day after it falls apart. Prior to that, it's called servicing your, it's capitalism. That's what it's all about. Got to make some money. Got a fiduciary responsibility.
And you know why they probably got caught too? It's because of the wokeness, right? Like if they didn't have so many damn black people or something just circulating in the bank, a woman at the head of the San Francisco Fed, then they would have just let the men do their thing and they wouldn't have gotten caught in this instance.
Let's go. It's yes.
Where was Mary Daley and her team at the San Francisco Fed while all this incredibly inept management was butchering the bank? Then you read about a $5 billion one chunk investment in some kind of climate fund that was completely untested, and Lord knows what other left-wing romping was going on in these woke banks. And by the way, San Francisco Fed head Mary Daley...
Can you just pause it for a sec? The reason is he trying to claim that a bank of this size was not respecting their fiduciary duty when they were coming up with a climate fund? I mean, we should look into that. We should look into the rest of banks if they're doing this. The point is that they had a climate fund because they thought it would be advantageous for them to invest in that sector. But anyway,
I mean, say what you will about our country's response to climate change, but because I'm not sure it's going to actually do enough, but it will make a lot of people rich, I think, and banks recognize that. And that's all.
Go ahead.
That's it?
Oh, is we done?
I mean, we could go further, I guess.
Go a little further.
Climate fund that was completely untested, and Lord knows what other left-wing romping was going on in these woke banks. And by the way, San Francisco Fed head Mary Daley is considered herself to be quite a wokester. The new House Republican...
A wokester?
Wokester! Oh, a bunch of wokesters over there. Of course, that's what brought down the... How are they going to report on Credit Suisse?
I mean, they did diversity stuff too, so there's more wokeness.
Yeah, where's the ESG and DEI and Credit Suisse?
They'll find someone in there. I mean, Europe, right? They're full of wokesters.
Yeah, right, gotta be.